You keep accusing me of blasphemy all of the time, but I cannot be convicted of a victimless crime. Atheists are people too.
Blasphemy is a victimless crime. Welcome back to Freethought Radio. I'm Annie Laurie Gaylor.
And I'm Dan Barker. Annie Laurie and I are co-presidents of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And I sang that song, almost 30 years ago. Blasphemy is a victimless crime.
When Salman Rushdie was undercover.
Yeah. But in some countries, blasphemy is still actually a crime on the books.
And we have with us, all the way from Dublin, Michael Nugent, who is chairperson of the advocacy group Atheist Ireland, and Atheist Ireland promotes atheism, reason, and ethical secularism in Ireland and around the world. And Michael Nugent also is a campaigner for the right to assisted dying for terminally or seriously ill people. And he's also been a peace activist, founding and chairing the peace group New Consensus. Welcome back to Freethought Radio, Michael.
Always great to talk to you.
So Ireland has certainly been in the news this week. And what's it been like through the Stephen Fry debacle?
Well, it's very strange because, as you say, there are a lot of countries who have blasphemy laws. Now, most of them in terms of Islamic states are current laws that they implement. Most of them in Western states are anachronistic laws that are on the books but aren't really thought about. But Ireland is different. We introduced a new blasphemy law in the 21st century. And it's, of course, it's a silly law in that it suggests that the creator of the universe, if it exists, needs the Irish Parliament to protect its feelings. But it's also silencing people, whether it's implemented or not, because media outlets will just self-censor themselves rather than get in any arguments about legal issues, even if they were going to win. So it's a very sort of dangerous situation that was highlighted by the accusation of blasphemy against Stephen Fry, and now it's an issue again. We had previously got the Irish government to commit to holding a referendum to remove the offence of blasphemy from our constitution. They reneged on that commitment, haven't done anything about it, but this has brought it back onto the agenda again.
Did I read that the current Prime Minister said that this blasphemy law is embarrassing?
No, that was the Minister for Health who said that. And ironically enough, this same minister who said that the blasphemy law is embarrassing is currently overseeing plans to give a new €30 million national maternity hospital to the Catholic Church. And also voted this week, along with his government colleagues, to force all members of Parliament to stand for a Christian prayer every morning, asking the Christian God to direct every word and work of theirs. So it's a very kind of strange situation where they're selectively recognising that things are embarrassing when there's a big outrage about it, but still in the background they go on with this nonsense.
So, Michael, can you explain what happened? Was when Stephen Fry was under investigation, he hadn't actually been arrested. Is that right?
No. He doesn't live in the country in the first place, so it would be difficult for them to enforce it anyway. What happened was he did an interview on a television programme in Ireland. He's based in England. And he was asked, if he was hypothetically to meet God, what would he say? And he asked questions about theodicy and bone cancer in children and so on. Now, somebody made a complaint that was blasphemous. And what our blasphemy law says, that if anybody says anything that is grossly abusive or insulting in relation to matters held sacred by any religion, that they have in essence committed blasphemy. Now, there are some safeguards that are there, one of which is that it has to cause outrage among a substantial number of adherents of the religion. The police investigated it, and they concluded that because they couldn't find evidence of a substantial number of people being outraged, that they were concluding the investigation without asking the Director for Public Prosecutions to go further on it. Now, our response to that is that reason for dropping the case is almost as dangerous as the case itself was. Because in essence what they're saying is, if you want to have a blasphemy case taken further, you have to have a large number of people demonstrating outrage. So in future cases, and we've all seen, the Muhammad cartoons and things like that, in future cases, if somebody wants to have a blasphemy case taken further in Ireland, the test that they have to meet is to demonstrate outrage. And the last thing we want to be doing is creating incentives for large groups of people to express outrage over things that are concerning them religiously.
Well, especially, yes, with the Islamist response that we've seen in other parts of Europe.
Yeah. And talking about Islamist response, I mean, we also have, with this case, the Pakistan at the United Nations, on behalf of the Islamic States at the United Nations, started citing wording from the Irish law when it was passed a few years back as what they wanted implemented internationally to protect Islam. We've had a lot of cases, particularly in Pakistan, where there was a Christian woman called Atheist Ireland who is facing execution for blasphemy. Two politicians spoke out in her favour, and both of them were murdered. One murdered by his own bodyguard. And on the other side of the world, in New Zealand this week, that the New Zealand Prime Minister said that the Irish case had brought to his attention that New Zealand had an anachronistic blasphemy law still on the books that he wasn't even aware was there, and he said that he's going to take steps to have that repealed. He said if what happened in Ireland happened in New Zealand people would be outraged.
You have made this point that the Irish adopting this belated blasphemy law has given ammunition to Islamist nations to call for blasphemy prosecutions.
Like in Pakistan, for example.
We've seen what's going on in Saudi Arabia this week, where an atheist blogger has been sentenced to be executed, where the Indonesian mayor, who's Christian, I guess he's in jail already or been sentenced to 2 years. And it's hard to know internationally how we can help these people. And we are calling on the State Department to do something to protest the Saudi atheists' execution. But Michael, what do you suggest?
Well, there's a couple of things that we can do. One is every so often at the United Nations, each member state is examined by the Human Rights Committee about their human rights record. Now, there are two aspects within the United Nations where they oversee human rights. One is the Human Rights Council. Now, that's a very dodgy body. That's just a political body with trade-offs, and each government is overseeing each other. That's the body that has put Saudi Arabia on a committee about women's rights. So that's one thing. But there's another area within the United Nations, which is the Human Rights Committees, not the Council. And the committees are bodies of independent legal human rights experts who just examine whether the countries are acting consistently with the human rights treaties. Now, Pakistan is going to be questioned by that committee in July of this year. And Atheist Ireland, along with the Evangelical Alliance of Ireland and the Ahmadiyya Muslim Community of Ireland, are jointly making a submission to the UN Human Rights Committee about Pakistan's human rights record. And we're going to go over to Switzerland, where the hearing is, and we're going to speak out on behalf of the members of our respective communities in Pakistan who can't speak out themselves because they will put themselves in danger, but we're going to do it on their behalf.
Well, that is very wonderful. I wonder if you can put in a word for our Saudi Arabian.
Well, we'll have to check when Saudi Arabia is coming up, because each country is questioned at different times by the committee.
So, Michael, I wonder if there's something you atheists and humanists could do in Ireland. Could enough of you express outrage over the blasphemy of having prayer at the Parliament and get them charged with blasphemy?
Well, ideally you could, except one problem is the blasphemy law doesn't apply to outraging atheists. It's okay to outrage atheists. It's only matters held sacred by religion that you're allowed to complain about. So, for example, Cardinal Murphy O'Connor, who was a recently retired Catholic cardinal in England, he said on the BBC that atheists are not fully human. We were at a conference here in Ireland recently about religious pluralism in education, at which two Catholic theologians repeated that atheists are not fully human. Now, it's quite legal for religious people to say outrageous things about atheists, but it's illegal the other way around in our blasphemy law.
And of course, we non-believers think blasphemy actually is a good thing, because blasphemy stems from a moral impulse. Stephen Fry had moral indignation at the actions and the words of this monster called God in the Bibles. He was expressing a positive thing, and we would think being charged with blasphemy is a compliment.
Well, of course, I mean, your book outlines that, where you go through Richard Dawkins' quote and outline how exactly, in their own words, the Christian God it does all of the things that Christians would consider to be evil if it was somebody other than their imagined God that was doing it. Incidentally, that would put you in the frame as well, because I think Richard had a letter in the Irish Times in which he re-quoted that and also referred to your book. So I don't know whether that brings your book into the frame either. I think you just got to be careful whenever you set foot in Ireland.
Well, I'd love to come.
Collar felt by the police.
I'll come back to Dublin again and let's test the waters there.
So we only have
on
about...
a serious note, so you go ahead, Danny. Laura.
Oh, on a serious note, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, on a serious note, the population of Ireland has moved on. I wouldn't want this to create the impression that the population of Ireland is still, in thrall to the Catholic Church. We're not. The population is much more secular. It's much more pluralist. We are the first country in the world to, by popular vote and referendum, to make gay marriage and equal marriage lawful. The people are no longer going to church in the levels that they used to. The difficulty that we have is that the politicians are reluctant to catch up with the people. And one of the reasons for that is there's a lot of laws still in place that are protected by the Constitution that was put in place in 1937 that gives the Catholic Church a disproportionate legal protection to the power that it actually has in reality. For example, they're allowed to run 90% of our primary schools that are state-funded but run by the Catholic Church with exemptions from our equality laws, allowing them to discriminate on the grounds of religion.
Well, thank you so much. We are just about out of time, Michael Nugent, for joining us from Atheist Ireland and explaining the situation, and keep up your good work.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see you.
Always good to talk to you.
We'll see you in London in a couple of months. So this is Freethought Radio. We're going to take